Okay, BOMAQ Talk, we're back. Second hour. Second hour. We ready? On a Friday. On a Friday, second hour. All right, BOMAQ Talk. Uh, Second hour. We have BOMAQ Talk about automations, mobile apps, and SaaS tools and products. And so in this segment, we're going to address the commodity trap where AI can generate infinite information. The knowledge is just infinite, right? But zero perspective. And so it can be, and also it can be a collaborator or it can be a competitor. And so the market, as it evolves, you have to continue to reposition yourself and product, service, market fit, go-to-market strategy is huge. Uh, um, the need in those areas are huge. Sales, marketing areas, huge um, need in those areas, whether using individuals or using AI assisted, you still have to give it perspective and context and all those types of things. So goes without saying. But um, we've been talking already, and so we're going to kind of roll into this subject matter, right? So we're moving from giving a fish to teaching how to fish. And it's the classic play, but modern technology, specifically automation, apps, and SaaS, actually built the boat and automate the navigation, right? It makes it easier. Instead of a one-time financial aid or financial gift, providing the infrastructure for self-sufficiency creates a legacy of independence. And here how, and this is how we see this happening and why we feel SaaS automation and apps can kind of do that. Um, the direct financial gains. Capital is needed in business, but the direct financial gains often address a symptom rather than the cause, right? So to create lasting impact, we must pivot from giving to equipping by focusing on business ownership, skill acquisition, and gainful employment. And business is an employment. You should be able to have profit income as well as employment income. That's the idea. The idea is that you would have um, earned income by having a salary from your business, by being on a project, taking on a role. But then as an owner, you also have profit income as well, benefiting from the business being profitable, right? And so um, we help individuals build their own floors rather than just providing a temporary ceiling, right? So that modern tech accelerates the successor, right? So if you are in those younger generations and you're trying to figure out, how all this works and comes together, um, with all that we've kind of talked about, um, this is that converging uh, point of that conversation, and that um, business ownership, skill acquisition provides this lasting self-sufficiency and legacy of independence, right? So um, let's talk SaaS automation and apps and how they accelerate the successor, right? So SaaS, um, starting a business, required massive overhead, but now those SaaS platforms enable this business in a box, right? And so it lowered the barrier to entry, so allowing any successor to launch a professional enterprise with minimal capital and flatten the learning curve. Automation also helps with the repetitive tasks and gives those new entrepreneurs valuable res that value re that valuable resource we call time, very valuable, right? And so it makes sure the business remains lean while they're still mastering their craft, right? And so in apps and skill building, these digital ecosystems turn those smartphones into mobile universities and storefronts. Having those apps streamline workflows, uh, making those complex skill sets, right, accessible to anyone. And so AI has enabled the creation of products in these three areas, enabled um, product creation in those areas um, in a way that makes it more accessible to small businesses as well. So like I indicated, we had a backlog of products that we wanted to bring to market that we needed internally that the to put capital in those projects um, exceeded, they weren't paying for themselves. But now AI has leveled that playing field and we're able to bring to market and test things without having that huge burn rate of cash. So um, these tools accelerate the successor, and AI has put has empowered them to do it even faster. Things that would take a month, take a week, these that took a week, take a day, these that took a day, take an hour. So we got time. And the funny thing about that, we talked in the last BOMAQtalk type topic, is that you have to balance that because you have more time, but instead of just taking the time to rest and take a break or take a sabbatical, we're actually stuffing more things in that time that we saved. So uh, trying to work at the pace of AI can burn humans, the human capacity, burn them out. And so we talked about how that is evolving, and folks are talking about it. They're posting about it. They're saying, hey, the way that we're approaching this is not, uh, in some ways, is not healthy. So, and we've done that. We see that, we're reading that, we hear that, and we actually done that. We've seen that with our social media, with the episode of content where we may have had only one or two episode of content. We've got like 7 dozen now because it's very, we can create things quickly, and the workflow is faster. So we're actually putting more into those days, different, it's a different workflow. And so kind of managing that and balancing that is the next management task for managers, right? To be able to manage project management and human management, change management, and project management, right? So, but in any case, uh, be having been given AI, we are gaining a lot from that, right? And so creating new currency with that, right? New streams with that, and we're all for that. So SaaS automation apps. When we gift an individual a pre-configured digital ecosystem, and that's what we're talking about. That's what we're about, building infrastructure and ecosystems. When we gift an individual a pre-configured digital ecosystem, we aren't just giving them a job or employment, we are giving them an engine, right? We're not just giving them a business, we're giving them an engine, where they um, own this, own the business, own the systems, and that business and those systems are working for them. Yes, I'm like a rich dad, poor dad. Yeah, that's a good, that's good theory. That's good theory. Right. And so this is along that lines where they have a digital ecosystem, an engine um, that is assisting them. And we have to put that in place. If you are in the silver tsunami group, if you don't know what that is, you can listen to the other BOMAQ talks, right? So if you are in the silver tsunami group, where you are the one passing the wealth on to the next generation, you have to put that ecosystem, those systems, core system management, need to know what those are. Universal language of core systems management. Grab it, check it out. There's free tiers in there. You can get up to breast on that. Or you can go to our website, the 10 core assessments and service. That's what those categories are and about, right? So this transition ensures that the next generation isn't just surviving on support, but thriving on systems they've been empowered to run. And so all this talk that I'm hearing about the next generation and how they are very different than previous generations, then we have been given this gift. We have been given this gift to be able to empower them in ways they don't know about, or in ways that assist them to make this transition, right? So there's lots of chatter about the change and the problems, um, uh, but we want to focus on the solutions and how we might make that transition easier. Change management, right? So, change management we were talking about previously was internal, but this is maybe something that's external shift. This is an external shift as well that you can't control. Um, it's going to happen. It's happening. And so to be able to manage that, um, we are suggesting that um, these this ecosystem, these engines, and this core systems that you could put in place by utilizing AI to create tools that can assist you internally to run the business better, and then to be able to pass on those tangible items. And we always say written, but now it's so digital, just to be able to digitally comprehend the tangibleness of it is can be digital, and be able to pass that on so they can step right into it. And so if they are, and this is the chatter, not good in operations, don't open, the next generation is not good in operations. They don't know how to run businesses. They aren't good at finances, and they're not good um, at being consistent and all types of feedback, right? Well, in turn, if we put tools in place, like the Comcore, Comcore 8, which is a fintech product where they just plug in the numbers, or we're going to get into how SaaS automation and apps are changing. We're getting there. But just to have something in place so that um, that becomes the training tool, or that becomes the support for that those types of transitions. And so that's where in the previous segment where we talked about SaaS automation and apps and how we're building those internally, those tools in turn become not only something we use internally, but also available for successors to be able to run the business and those divisions effectively and efficiently. And so you could put systems like that, translate SOPs, standard operating procedures, workflows, processes, um, just like we did the books, the classes, and the videos, which represent the same for us, um, in place so that that transition is easier and you feel a little bit more comfortable and at ease. Right. Um, so with that said, though, we the second half of last Friday, the second hour of last Friday, we were talking about the commodity trap. And we went through a lengthy summary explanation of how software is changing from a passive tool you use to an active partner that does the work for you, right? So, AI is becoming that collaborator for us. Yeah, it's a collaborator. It's collaborated us right into accelerating some of the products and services that um, were on the back burner for so long, or they weren't, but were pacing very slow. Either they were pacing very slow, or they were on the back burner until this one paced through and stuff like that. Now they could be happening simultaneously with AI, because it is a great collaborator and it can handle all that we throw at it, and in a very intelligent way. So um, it doesn't get overwhelmed. Um, I'm gonna put that in context in this next segue. So yeah, so software is changing from a passive tool you use to an active partner, right? So it can be collaborator, but as it gets evolves, in some places it's a competitor. You Some places you can't work at the pace of AI. It just outpaces you in that area. And so it becomes a competitor. You should use it, or will prefer to use it, because it's just better, faster, more efficient, more effective within those areas. And so having to reposition your business to make sure that you continue to stay relevant um, in the areas which you want to serve. So, or in industries that you want to serve. So, yeah. So it's changing. It's evolving monthly, quarterly, sometimes daily, weekly. So instead of clicking through menus, um, you tell an AI your goal and it uses APIs to get it done. Okay, now we haven't really gotten there yet. And um, we still have, uh, and we talked about this in previous sessions, is that um, we're still, we're the bottleneck, because AI still has to go through us, and we still have firewalls in between different ones. And in order for that to happen, we just talked about AI getting it done, we have to give it access to the whole workflow or the whole process, which may be um, two or three permissions, or maybe um, to complete a task. And we're just not we're not there yet. We're not comfortable with that yet. So the way that we are pacing towards that is strategically. So, but this is where um, software is shifting to, and this is where it will be more beneficial to the owner, manager, administrator. Yeah, because we need our time, we need our time back. So let's talk about the big shifts. We're going to talk about them again. We're going to try to break it down a little bit because we didn't have time to break it down um, second half of last session. So we're going to try to use some examples to make it more applicable and digestible because it was a mouthful for me. I had to go back and like, okay, what did I just say? What we just said? Okay, so but it was good. It was a strong insight. I trust this insight. And so that's why I'm revisiting it again and breaking it down a little bit in layman's terms. Of course, AI helped me to do that. Um, and so, yeah, so the big shifts, um, experience. We're moving away from the complex, the insight indicates that we're moving away from complex dashboards and to outcome interfaces where you just simply describe the result you want, right? And so we discussed that we've done that in a theoretical way, meaning that when you onboard as a client, we're asking you, what's your expectation? What's the outcome? And you have to check numerous outcomes, which is our value add on that. Um, this is going, and usually all softwares have some kind of dashboard, and COM Core 8 has dashboards. It has dashboards. Um, it also has a outcome interface in that um, there's a search engine where you can ask the model um, different pieces of financial information based upon the case study input that we've put into the build, this current build. And it will spit back different pieces of information. Right. So that feature, uh, I understand, is that outcome interface that they're talking about here, is that you're just typing stuff in and you want the results you want. So here's an example. So um, imagine you need to handle a customer refund for a damaged item, right? Um, the old way with the dashboards is you log into your CRM um, or your CRM or your accounting software, either or where you would handle that manually. You search for the customer's name, email, that payment, wherever that order, transaction ID, however you're able however you're recording that in that particular dashboard. Then you however the system is set up to refund that module, yeah, type in the amount, select the reason, submit it. You have to manually do it. So this outcome interface, and this is how I understand the insight, is that you would open that simple text box or have that box where you can type it in like you do all the LLMs or voice prompt and you say refund customer last order X, Y, and Z, it arrived broken or damaged, send them a 15% discount code for their trouble, whatever. And that's it. The agenic talks to shipping or goes in there, does all that manual stuff that you would have done, grabs it in the background, um, using APIs in the background to execute the task. Um, you just request the result. You don't go into the software at all. You just make the request and it gets done. Now, I like that. Instead of AI, I got another marketing plan yesterday, and I'm like, why do I keep getting these? I'm just like, from an agent. Yeah, and I have to review it. I'm the bottleneck now. Um, and, and and messages, so I came to your website, got a question, whatever. Approve this answer. So I like the new way. I like the new way. But so that's the new way. That's the um, user experience or owner, manager, administrator experience. The user may um, it may be the same on the user facing side, but the internally, this is what's going on. So that customer service, uh, client acquisition, success, all that kind of stuff is improving supposedly through this process if it works well and works right the way it's supposed to work, right? All right, so user experience shifting. Okay, so we got that. Cost. We talk about things that are changing, shifting. Since AI is doing the labor, companies are ditching per user fees and moving toward outcome-based pricing, right? So paying for solved tickets or a closed deal. Now that's more like performance-based. Um, it says outcome-based, but performance-based, right? So the way I understand this insight is that if you imagine a company hiring a customer support SaaS platform, right, to handle 10,000 inquiries a month. The old way, per seat pricing, the company pays $100 per month for every human agent who logs into the dashboard. So if they have 50 staff members, the software bill is 5,000 a month, right? 50 times 100. So regardless of whether those staff solve tickets or 1,000, right? Right? Yeah, and that's why we have the independent sales representative position because it's performance based. You It's based upon commission of you actually making the sale. Business relationship manager wasn't structured that way. And see the same it's the same dynamic, right? So whether those staff solve tickets or 1,000, you have to do the base pay, right? So the software company makes more money only if the customer hires more people, right? So um, uh, they have bread and butter, because as long as you have um, employees there, whether they use it or not, or they're making sales or not, or they're performing or not, they still have that bread and butter monthly income because they're invested within the platform. Well, the new way, uh, utilizing AI, if AI successfully processes a return, updates a shipping address, or troubleshoots a login, start to finish, now the company earns $2. If the company pays $2 for every resolved case, we're going to pay you. It's outcome-based pricing. So the company pays $2 for every resolved case handled autonomous, autonomous, autonomously, autonomously by the AI agent, then they earn $2. So if the AI can't solve it, it has to pass it to a human. The software company earns $0 for that interaction. Yeah, see, they should do that with phone, the phone automations too. And every time I say speak to a representative, whoever is uh, making money off of that service should be docked, or anytime they solve a problem, they should be paid. Because if I have to keep on saying representative, customer representative, I want to speak to representative. Okay, so that means I still need a human in the loop because it's not clear that my problem is going to be solved, or that the AI is competent enough to assist me, support me when I have an urgent need. Um, it can't step me through so I won't get frustrated, right, in a timely manner. So yeah, so yeah, that's a different that's a different revenue model. Yeah, so um chew on that. Yeah, chew on that. And then the tech stack. The tech stack, this is the and I'm still digesting all of this too, because as we are building this, we're building this in the midst of some of the ways in which it's changing. And so, um, uh, we're looking to see how we might have to shift and those types of things. So, um, yeah, the tech stack, SaaS as a three-layer: data, brain, and action, where data is the systems of record, the spine, where all the facts live, and in ComCore 8, which is FinTech SaaS, that's a demo product. We still have to build the back end. This is the front end interface, and we are uh, better positioned, being our background in design, um, and those types of things, to do front end development. So, and user interfaces, right? So our credentials are more well versed in, or I guess are better suited for the uh, front end part of the products. And so that's what we're accelerating. As we get into the back end of the product, the data. So for it to actually be a product that can be used internally and not, right now you're just seeing case study information, and to be a product to release to the masses, we have to have that data layer. And that's what we're going to build in. We're going to use like Superbase or something like that. And we have to build the back end, but we want to get the front end, all the elements of the front end, um, at least laid out. And then we're, we'll add that data layer. But three layers: data, brain, action. The data is the systems of record. Um, the brain, that agent operating system. Yeah, so uh, when we built Calm Core 8 with these dashboards, but with the agents orchestrating in the background. So when you put in, and then the way that it's set up to work is that when you put in, starting with the base budget, it's 7 tiers now. I think it's seven. It's gotten to be 7 or 8 tiers. But starting with putting in the budget is directly related to um, uh, connects with financial projections, um, any accounting issues, any bookkeeping. They're interactive or integrated with each other, and that orchestration is agent operated behind the scenes, where we were using Excel spreadsheets for that. We've taken the Excel spreadsheets and now made this um, tool to have all of those items automated. And at the end of the day, it will be able to spit out those PDFs much faster than it would take me, you know. So building this long term is going to save us time over time and allow us to scale because the capacity to which the spreadsheets manually um, could handle uh, for us manually um, when we get into all the different industries, stuff like that, it gets a lot more complex. So to be able to have an agent operating system actually handling that, things just got easier. All of this just got that much easier. So uh, the brain, right? The capacity of the brain is orchestrating some of those needs. And so then the action, the outcome interface, right? Which is considered that top layer. And so um, you're just putting in fine, in a CRM or something like you're just putting in find 50 leads in the fintech space and start an outreach campaign and you just see it moving and all that kind of stuff. I don't have to log into one place to do my campaign, log into another place to compose the campaign, log into or go into another place to get all the leads and email addresses to put into the campaign. It just does all that itself, right? So um, this hits uh, directly support. If agents will soon, agents can handle 80% of the issues in the end if they can, like processing refunds and stuff like that without human help, then that's a huge entry level of support that you can save cost on and the operational gain, right? And so then sales and marketing, like you said as well, in sales and marketing, if they can find leads, make phone calls, and write these personalized emails and these email campaigns. I love it. Well, yeah, sign me up. Sign me up. Um, uh, and then the finance development systems now can predict the cash flow and catch errors, problems, and you know write and test code, which is another aspect of development to be able to write and test code and develop products, digital products. These are just great gains. We've been given some of the with these great gains, and just to be able to apply it correctly, pace through it and just apply it correctly and apply it in places where you can gain the most from it, and that it is useful, is useful, and not duplicating, right? Because um, it's um, one thing to be able to duplicate a process, but if you have to, or if you're picking up tech debt, tech debt that is larger than a monthly subscription or um, outcome-based pricing uh, from um, a different solution, you still have to weigh that because sometimes to run it internally, and that's why we start with must these projects must pay for themselves. Free forever tiers. You gotta have free forever tiers. And so when we talk to Claude and we're building something, free for forever tiers across the board or free um, uh, free options across the board because we know that we're going to be testing it and we're going to be changing it and um, we don't want to we are very conscious of burn rates. And so if uh, so we've in our workflow, we've put in the guardrails what we need to stay within our operational needs. And so, and it's working. It's working. Cloud's working with us. So, um, right. So, uh, big shifts, user experience, cost, the tech stack, hitting some really um, key areas to driving revenue, sales, marketing, finance, and then support, client support. Uh, but with all that said, the reason we're pacing the way that we are in terms of using agents to do work for us, which is where we need, that's where the real gain is. Talking about get the gain, that's where the real gain um, uh, is the risks, right? So there's new risks with doing that. So visibility. Um, if a company does not build its own AI agents, it will be reduced to a commodity back-end utility. The problem is who owns the interface, right? And so um, So what does this mean, right? So the the rise of AI agents, the paradigm is shifting. So the old way the user interacts directly with your software. The new way the user gives a goal to an AI agent. That agent then silently plugs into your software in the background to execute the task. So how do you risk becoming invisible? Invisibility is the loss of the relationship with the user. They no longer have to visit your site or your app because the software has become that hidden API call behind there. The loss of the pricing power. When the company A's agent can get the same result from either your software or competitors, and you have to compete on price, often leading to like a race to the bottom. So and then the loss of strategic control. So relationship, pricing power, strategic control, because the AI agents is making the decisions. And if your software isn't the one making the decision, then they're merely just is executing it. You lose the ability to influence what the user chooses or how the transaction happens, right? So lots of activity going on that may be unmonitored or with gates all open, um, uh, uncontrolled. You losing relationship, pricing power, and strategic control over it. So um, the user gives a goal to the AI agent. That agent silently plugs into your software in the background to execute the task. So that's, that's the visibility issue. And then the why, right? So, um, and we've all been talking about this when the AI hallucinates, and the largest benefit of using AI is giving it context. I got the best input, and why I continued to use Claude was when I started on this journey in April of last year, putting our written documents. A lot of, we have a written business plan we've had since conception, and we have our books and SOPs. So putting those documents in there, it repositioned us. Some of the changes that we've made that have given the best clarity to clients, and repositioned us in the market has been phenomenal. But it was only attained by giving context, giving a specific context that is proprietary to the way we operate. And so the why, the biggest risk, the why competition is no longer about features, but about the context graph, the ability for AI to explain the logic behind its decision. So the re, regarding enterprise AI, in that competitive advantage, is using a contact graph, which is a living, structured record of how an organization makes decision, capturing data, relationships, the decision traces, scattered across emails, Slack messages, internal tools, all that, the how and why of the past and, present, and then strategically how you want to move forward, what your business plans and strategic plans are, right? And so um, the more that and we found this to be true, the more that you can uh, give it context. And sometimes the three, four sentences can be good for a quick image, um, but for something that is more complex, like a business or an organization or a service or a product or your uh, uh, ideal client profile, um, is needs more, needs to be a document. It needs to be a comprehensive document. And so, um, if you are good at articulating that, then you can get great results from that. Um, one of and we have always been good at documenting our processes, our process, our procedures, plans. We got a plan for a plan, got the backup to the plan. We got 5 plans in a plan. So we got a written documents, but sometimes the articulation of those ideas still is a little bit complex. And so AI has been able to help us articulate ideas better and to simplify those complex. It's very structured, very hierarchical, puts things in hierarchy and those types of things. So it the way it organizes and structures things aligns, we can get with that, right? So um, we've been able to successfully create a context graph and get great output from that. And so um, AI gives output, which is the what, but why, right? So when you the context graph enables it to you're able to track the in a sensible way the what and the why, right? So um uh which empowers the that whole trust thing, right? Accountability and trust. You can trace decisions, um, and then you can, once you understand how it made its decision, you can change that so that the output is more aligned with whatever the strategic goals are. So um, AI uh, goes fast in the things that it can do, but then why did it make that decision? Why did, why is this output like it is? You can thumbs up, thumbs down. It listened to me. It didn't listen to me. This is a good book. This is great output. This is not good output, but why? Um, it did it. And then now you can look at the data source of where and got it. Was it the prompt? Was it the documents, the database entries? You're able to trace the decision sets and modify it. And then all this is valuable in simple tasks and decision making, um, organizational knowledge, and then product service output. So um, by having structured organizational memory, knowledge management, um, and making it digital or machine ready, you allow AI to process the information and to understand, get on board with the context in which that information exists, right? And so um, the whole agent and agency or agenic systems discussion is talking about that, creating agents for this, create agents for sales, a CMO agent, a sales agent, all these different agents who are given context specific to those roles and uh, activities or tasks that you want to delegate to them, right? And so we get that. Um, we've done that. Um, but because of the next topic that we're doing, we kind of step back from doing some of that. So we can't max out the gains on this just yet. So safety, right? So if agents are out there in the back end doing their thing, and we're not a back end programmers, right? We're front end. So it may look, you know, um, looks lovely on the front end, but on the back end, there's all kind of mishaps happening back there um, that need to be hashed out. One thing, if one thing changes on the front end, could knock everything on the back end uh, off, off out of sync. and we've seen that in building COM Core 8, just in the guarded environment to which we've created for it. So this creates new security risk, which requires new governance types to ensure that AI stays within the company policy and within the company guardrails and with the company context graph. Yeah. So it's pretty smart. So um, it we wanted to stay within the guardrails we've given it. And so uh, that risk is that if a agent is misaligned in some way or get misaligned, by you type in something and you didn't really mean that particular action, but it interpreted it in a way that misaligns that agent, and they are fast. They rapidly go into an widespread error that causes harm before you notice your human error, notice it. So a human errors in what they have asked, it misaligns an agent, and the agent in rapid fire speed goes to do the task and they screw it up rapidly. So uh, that's a risk, right? And sometimes when that happens in real life in human error, it's hard to come back from that. So yeah, so and then um, any unauthorized actions, it may not be human error input, but maybe it's just unauthorized from some way, somehow. It's poorly constrained, and it starts to make decisions um, based on the permissions that you've given it. Oh, I'm allowed to do this. So I just start doing stuff, right? So unauthorized actions, and then data leakage. With our client, we cannot have data leakage. So um, tasks with finding, when we talk about procurement or B2G, your B2B or B2C, data leakage is a risk. Um, so with gates open, I need to do this task. I need access to your email. I need access. That's the second hour. I can get a little tongue twisted. I need, I need you to password link, grant me entry. There we go. Grant me entry to your email. Grant me the entry to your CRM. Grant me the entry to um, your accounting software. And by way of doing that, now all of those gateways are open and accessible to back end activity to which you can't see on the front end. And so, because of that, it's a risk that data may be being leaked, um, and you do not know about it, right? So, the governance, zero trust, human in the loop, access, control with guardrails. Sat through some conversations through that. I agree. I'm all about the firewalls. Firewalls, very, I like password firewalls in between the different apps, softwares, and SaaS that I'm using. And so, uh, We've talked about some places where we automate it. That's before a client comes in internally. So we're comfortable with that as they get started and get onboarded, um, which most of their information is probably public knowledge to start with. And but then after that, we're going into an internal private system. And until we're able to build an infrastructure for an AI ready infrastructure, and we're working on that. We're working on that, right? Those um, what that's going to look like for us. We haven't gotten to the point where we're able to tell AI to go do stuff and it's doing stuff for us, which is the biggest gain on it. It is doing, we do have agents out there working for us, but we are the bottleneck in that process because we still, as the human, um, uh, as we're the human in the loop, and we're going to stay in the loop so we feel we can delegate the whole process completely. So, uh, human in the loop over here, human in the loop. And we may at times be the bottleneck. And we're okay with that. The bottlenecks that we're creating, we're okay with that. We've worked that out in the process. That right here, it's going to be a waiting period. So, yeah. So, risks, uh, uh, prompt, prompts somehow bypass safety filters, excessive agencies, changes permissions or deletes files, unintended actions, phishing emails, um, data exfiltration, leaks confidential data to the public. And so there's these solutions, either input validation by um, sanitizing inputs, having a cheat sheet, what the input prompt review, um, least privilege access, restriction AI permissions for only necessary tasks, right? So kind of siloing those tasks. And that's where we are. We want to build an infrastructure. It might have its own accounts, its own laptop, its own storage, we're looking at all that. And then pausing high stakes actions for approval, human in the loop. So saying just building bottlenecks into the process to say, okay, uh, check, okay, approval, okay. And then blocking sensitive data from leaving from internal network. And we were doing that too. Saying, okay, onboarding, we're able to automate that. But once you come on as a client, then you come into the internal network and uh, we may use AI with them delivering a service. Um, um, but there's some sensitive data that will not be part of that process, right? So, um, yeah. So that is a little bit more digestible than um I think I got it. I got it a little better. I got it a little better now. I hope that clarifies some things that we said second hour last Friday. Um it clarifies some stuff for me because I was just like, okay, I don't even have time to go through this. We already reached the our time, and we reached our time again on today. So, but we're at a better place. We're at a better place of understanding on this. I think I feel like I am. So I hope that you are too. So, um, yeah. So even within the digital ecosystem to which we are setting up so that we can be more impactful within the industries we serve. And then we pass on something that is of value to clients, valuable to successors and then valuable to the teams to which we put together um, uh, within those ecosystems. Um, they're changing and evolving within this AI tech disruption. Um, but even as they become uh, viable. They serve their purpose, even in the state that they are in. Even in the state that they are in, they serve good serve their purpose, and their purpose will only improve as the product service shift um, to market the market need um, and market trends. So we have full confidence in some of these strategic steps in which we're taking. And we're glad we can BOMAC talk to you about it. Yeah, so much to share, so much to share. So that is our BOMAC talk for this Friday, BOMAC Talk 2026. Hope you gained something from that. It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Woosah. I'm taking a woosah moment. You take a woosah moment. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week. Signing off.